You have to wait for the automated voice to tell you that we're good, okay?
I'm waiting.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I am John Chwat, the ESA's Director of Government Relations. First, I would like to cover a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. All callers will be muted for the duration of the call. Please be sure to use your question or chat log to submit questions, and all questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar. Additionally, a recording of the webinar will be available at esaweb.org DOCH 2015, day on Capitol Hill 2015. I would like to, at this time, thank Steve Safaro and Paul Plofchan for joining me today. Steve Safaro is with Access Communications, and we also thank Telguard and Triad as well for being sponsors of today's webinar. Steve, would you please like to say a few words to the group?
Sure, John. Thanks so much, and it's really an honor to work with ESA in this capacity. As far as industry associations, ESA is very forward-thinking, very education-oriented, just like Access Communications is. And if you don't know Access, Access is actually the largest network camera supplier in the world, ranked #1. But one of the things that, I'll just tell you very briefly, one of the things that we just got recognized at ISC West, which was last week, was we got a new product showcase award for some new technology that's going to help you out a great deal. It's called Zipstream, and it actually reduces your bandwidth or network usage by almost 50%, and it's fully backward compatible with your systems. So that's good news for you folks because it's going to take up less video space. Some of the other 3 areas that I support, I'll come back to you and talk to you about that, but I work together with ASIS, the Security Applied Sciences Council, SIA as a digital video chair, and Homeland Security Science and Technology for the Video Quality and Public Safety Program. Thanks, John.
We hope that you have found this to be very informative content. We hope that you find this to be very informative content. And we now move into the questions and answer portion of the webinar at the end. Shannon, next screen. This is, if somebody could mute their background, because I hear some background noise and it's hard to talk over the background, so be sure to mute here. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, this is the 2015 ESA Day on Capitol Hill. There's some pretty pictures there with the wonderful Hyatt Arlington that we're going to be using as the headquarter hotel. And this is one day on Capitol Hill that we've had in the past for those attendees who have been there before. It is a very worthwhile experience to interact with Congress and to visit Washington, D.C. Shannon? Okay, we are going to adhere to our schedule that we have on the screen there, and we're going to talk about the registration and packet review. I'm anticipating that early next week or even late this week, the packets of information containing the 3 issues which we're going to go over today, plus more detail, will be sent via email to all of the attendees. They will include information on the legislative positions that we're going to go over briefly, some talking points, and other material, again, that will be emailed to you. And the registration will take place on May 4th, which is the arrival time from 1 o'clock until 6 o'clock at the hotel at the Hyatt Regency. The packets, excuse me, are very important to review either on the airplane or prior to your coming, because they will contain some information on the three issues that are important to review. And of course, you can contact my office or you can contact me anytime to ask questions between now and May 4th, and I will be there May 4th to review the packets. There are two types of packets. One is a packet that will be emailed to all the attendees, and then we have some special packets from our for you when you arrive. These packets will contain the visitation schedule, which we are finalizing as we speak with congressional offices. I will go into a little more detail about the visitations, and they will also include material to provide to senators and congressmen and their staffs, which will be arranged by state. Okay, what to expect on Capitol Hill on May 5th? For those of you who will be going to the U.S. House of Representatives, the week of May 5th is what we call a district work period. They select these, the leadership selects these different weeks, mostly surrounding holidays, but on some occasions they do pick out a week during the month where the members can go back to the district or stay in the district. This week, the 4th through the 8th, the House is out of session, so there are not as many. Actually, there's no members that, unless they're in the metropolitan area, there's no members here, but the staffs are here. So it's a much more relaxed time during that week for those of you who have House visitations. For those of you who have Senate visitations, obviously it's much more hectic, and the senators are there, the staff is there. We have selected individual members of Congress based on the three issues that we have as priorities, and we'll go into that a little later. There is, please mute your, I can hear things, okay. There is what we call a first-timers orientation that will take place the day before from 4:30 to 5:30. It's about an hour, a little less than an hour, in which I go through in detail, for those of you who have not been on the Hill, some ideas to consider. Okay, and objectives for congressional visits. We have two objectives, actually three, for attendees that go to the Congress. The first objective and the most important objective is to explain what you do, either as an individual company member of ESA in the district with customers and with your employees, to introduce your company to the member or the staff person that you're talking to. And if you're an associate or a manufacturer, to introduce the company support that ESA has from your company. So it's really an introduction of the industry to the ESA. The second objective is to target the request, and each one of the three position papers has an individual request that we specifically are asking Congress people to undertake on behalf of not only ESA but the industry, and that is important. And the third objective is a leave behind material in which we can follow up when you finish your visits, and that you can maintain communications with that office on a regular basis, in which the request maybe changes over time, and to create a friend in that staff person or in that member. Okay, Shannon. Is Paul on the line? Oh, okay, Paul. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'd be happy to introduce myself, and I apologize if the office in the noise in my office was loud when I first logged in. I'm Paul Plofchan. I'm VP of Government Affairs and Chief Privacy Officer at ADT, and I also, as part of ESA, work with and chair the Government Affairs Committee. And in that capacity, work closely with John, on all government affairs issues and with respect to this line.
Thank you, Paul. And I may ask you to embellish on one of the legislative points as well. Okay, on this slide here, we have more detail about the visitation schedules. In the past and this year, it is much more effective to organize the attendees into state delegations, meaning from your state, with the members in the congressional delegation, either Senate or House, from that state. This maximizes what we call the constituent link between where you live, the fact that you're a voter, hopefully, and that you influence your family, your friends, your neighbors, customers, employees, so on and so forth, that are also constituents. So for a Senate visitation, which a lot of you will have, the senator obviously represents the entire state, and if you come from that state, you can maximize in your presentation the fact that you're connected in the state, and that's a very, very big political plus going in to introduce the industry to this particular member or staff person. And if you come from a district, we have tried as much as possible, maybe 95%, for those of you who provided us with your home address, to link up the visits to a member from that particular district if they're in the House. So that is the first linkage that you should be aware of. The morning schedule for May 5th, as I indicated, is not as hectic on the House side as it would be in the Senate. Last year and the years before, I mentioned that the Congress is a very hectic place. There are bells going off when members have to go to the floor, both in the Senate and the House. Staff is has about a 5-minute attention span, and so do a lot of congressmen and senators. When their eyes start wandering and when they look at their watch, you know that your visit is over. So there's still a lot of pressure, even though half of the Congress is what we call in recess or in a district work period. These staff people have different jurisdictions. Some of them will have telecommunications, some of them will have appropriations, which is funding, but all of them have multiple areas that they're in charge of. And you have to make your case based on our requests for that particular office. So it would be good to review some of these materials either with me or before you go to the meeting. I'll go into a little more detail in the next couple of things, but the morning schedule, because we're going to be going in two phases. The first is after the breakfast at approximately 8:45 or around there, 8:30. Everyone will depart for their congressional visits. Usually congressional visits will begin somewhere around 9:30 in the morning. They will continue through enough time for you to get to the lunch meeting, but there should be at least 3 meetings in the morning session. We've tried to go as much as possible keeping the visitations in the Senate or in the House so that you don't have to go from the Senate over to the House or House back to the Senate, because logistically it's challenging, but it's not far, but it's still, we wanted to keep the schedule as close as possible for the morning session. In the afternoon session, some of the attendees will break off and return to the hotel for important meetings for the afternoon. And for those of you who have afternoon visits, we've done the same thing. Either you'll be in the House or you'll be in the Senate, and we've kept them together. There will not be a lot of time after the lunch and before the time that you have to go back to the hotel to prepare for the reception and dinner. So there may be one, maybe two, but there's still important visitations in the afternoon. Some quick do's and don'ts. And I'm going to wrap that do's and don'ts with take notes and bring your business cards. The first do is make sure that you do have business cards. That's very, very important because we want the staff people and we want the congressmen or the senators to be able to get back in touch with you. And do take notes because that's important for our follow-up and for the industry to relay to other people in the industry what their position is and how they feel on what your presentation is doing. And make sure that you get their information, get their cards, write down on a piece of paper, you know, some of the things that they've said, and then, of course, relay that back to me when you come back to the hotel. Some do's. This is there's not a lot of walking, but on the other hand, you should prepare to go probably from at least 9:30 to about 11:30 for 2 hours or more, walking around buildings. Depending on the weather, you know, you can take a look and see if you need an umbrella to go from building to building. If you do, we'll advise you. Some don'ts is don't argue. I think that's a basic issue. Always be nice, even though it's a 22-year-old that you're talking to. Remember, these young staff people they do spend the bulk of their time in the evenings and with the member, so they advise them one way or the other. And always always end at the end of your meetings that you want to get back to them with more specific information. Okay, Shannon. Okay, the first issue, and Paul, I would like you to, if you could, you know, maybe assist in presenting this issue as well. This is our primary #1 issue for not only for the day on Capitol Hill, but for ESA for this year in this session of Congress and perhaps for the next couple of years. As all of you should know from reading the newspaper, there is a huge effort both within the administration, the Federal Communications Commission, which coordinates all communications policy in the United States from the President on down, and as well in the Congress to update and rewrite some major telephone communications legislation that has been on the books since the late 1990s, 1996, and this effort is well underway in the Congress. And the telecommunications issue in which we are presenting our position paper is industry-wide positions based on our membership in the Alarm Industry Communications Committee, which of course is chaired by Lou Fiore, who will be with us during our day on Capitol Hill. And the AICC has a 20 to 30-year record of fighting for the industry in Congress and in the FCC on all communications issues, and has advised us as a member and the rest of the industry on these kind of positions that we are to present to Congress. The staff that you will be meeting, this is their primary issue, telecommunications, and they have been lobbied by the cable industry, by the telephone industry, by all communications people already, and it's an ongoing issue for the staffs that they're focused on. The telecommunications issue has a basic request, and the basic request, at least for our industry, is what I had written down there about level playing field, to be able to provide for our industry protection and a level playing field in providing our products to our customers. Now, the position paper that we have, and I'll ask Paul in a minute to say some words about this. Our position paper includes the comments that the Electronic Security Association presented to the Federal Communications Commission on this particular issue. It's called net neutrality, and this position paper is only, let's see, it's 4 pages, and it was signed by Marshall, and is very recent, and it focused on battery backup power, which is a #1 issue for both the Senate and the House, and it's been mentioned many, many times in congressional hearings, battery backup. And the second issue is the transition of networks to copper retirement, the transition of networks to IP, and the concern that we have that technologies that are reliable and tested before they are approved by the FCC. Now, this position paper also includes the language that the Congress passed in 1996 to protect our alarm and monitoring industry. And there's a special provision in the statutes called Alarm Monitoring Services. And this particular provision was put in by Congress. It was heavily lobbied by AICC, and of course the old National Burglar and Fire Alarm Association was prominent among the members that lobbied heavily for inclusion. This is the era when the baby bells were being broken up, and there was great concern on competition. So in this particular provision, it calls about expedited consideration of complaints. In other words, if there's complaints, the Federal Communication Commission should establish a very quick procedure to follow up on complaints. Excuse me, and that there should be no non-discrimination. There should be no discrimination, sorry, on the offering of alarm monitoring services by local exchange carriers. This particular provision is very old and needs to be updated, and so Congress will be considering this provision when it starts to create this legislation. I'm going to read something from the position. It says, the ESA's primary concern is that broadband and wireless network providers are increasingly offering services that compete with us in providing home and business security. Without some protection for smaller players, these network providers will have an incentive to favor their own security services and throttle or block our emergency signals in order to gain a competitive advantage. And so we have some urgings for Congress to include protections in any bill that they finally put together, and that they include provisions that relate to battery backup requirements, consumer awareness, and that new technologies need to be reliable and perform to the same level as existing communications. Paul, would you like to embellish a little more about the issue of telecommunications?
Sure. So I think the first thing that just sort of as a preamble, one of the enjoyable things about having people come to Washington and talk to the staff where you're their constituent is, and as John said, they've heard a lot of messages and things, and is to make sure that as what we hope to do is make some additional friends so that we can then have people to follow up with if the need be, and if your member is identified as someone that can be helpful to that. So an overarching thing, I mean, they've heard a lot of voices on this. John has articulated that, you know, I think I would make just the points that I would make is that I think what we all know that net neutrality, the FCC has made a decision, and that there was a lot of attention placed on the underlying enforcement mechanism of that. But and there's some, you know, there's continued debate around that, and that impacts what could be done, or attempts to be done legislatively. But very importantly, it's so that those who are these edge service providers, like alarm companies, those of us that are in this situation, that when we use the internet for our customers can use it in an upload and onboard the devices to it that are all legal, and all that has been protected by the FCC. And so I think these are positive things that we can that can be communicated to the staff to say, hey, we got this right? You know, that there was a lot of attention placed on that, and so there can't be discrimination, so that devices need to work, so that you as owners of your alarm businesses or as members of national companies have something, have a good message in there that should build a relationship. I think that the point that John made about IP transition is still a very relevant issue about finishing up the rules that FCC will release sometime this summer about the open docket right now on IP transition, and for the segment of our alarm customers that still need to deal with the loss of broadband. And making a friend here on this issue, talking about how important it is that the alarm systems work not only through this transition, but that we continue to focus on alarms and alert functions and medical devices, et cetera, about that for even potential future transitions is important, and where we could have links through you to follow up with the individual offices. And then, so I think that's really important. And then on the issue of battery backup, that question is part of the IP transition docket that the FCC has open, and I think this is a question that a lot of folks in government are still trying to figure out, right? And so stating what's in the position page to them, letting them know where the industry stands, but again, also trying to become, at least offering that you could serve as a resource, or you could connect them to ESA and to John as additional resources, so would be important. So I think being very conscious about IP transition, not only does our equipment work so that we get the right signals to the monitoring center, matter a lot, particularly since a lot of the folks that haven't moved to broadband yet, there's a disproportionate number that are elderly or financially disadvantaged. There's a group that can't move yet because they don't have the technology, but for the most part, there's a lot of folks that are using those traditional IP systems, copper systems rather, and they're unlikely to change, at least drastically. So we need to account for that. I'd stop my comments there, John, unless you think there's something I left off.
No, thank you, Paul. I have two additional comments on telecommunications, and then we'll move on to the next topic. The first is that these staff people and these members in the House and Senate are on the committees in both the House and Senate that relate to telecommunications. So they obviously have heard in the last 5 months, even before that, from the cable companies, from the telephone companies. They've been lobbied, they've been met with dozens of different industries. The telecommunications bill that they're going to be rewriting is hundreds, if not thousands of pages. The Federal Communications Commission comments were in the millions, so it's a huge issue involving multi-billion-dollar players. We have really one goal here in this little visit that we're making, and that is to get a carve-out, to get not a mantra, but to get a buzz that yes, buried inside this bill, the alarm and monitoring industry has a concern. And that is our primary objective here. We've been to lots of staff as follow-ups to the Alarm Industry Communications Committee that has already been on the Hill, and the staffs that deal with this issue say, yes, we're starting to hear from letters from ESA and from state chapters that have been sent in about these concerns. So that's the great takeaway, and that can make my work much easier when we get into the weeds about creating the amendments that we need inserted in this final version of the bill, which incidentally the AICC is working up in concert with us. The second and last comment on telecommunications is there is no other issue that transcends for the next 2 or 3 years or even more that will set the trend for the 21st century for the industry. And that you can read on your own, and here you're actually taking part and meeting the people that will set these trends. You can see from the 96 bill, not see, but I meant you can hear from what I'm telling you, 1996 was the last major telecommunications bill, and that's been going on for 20 years. So we're talking about some major policy changes here for the next 2 or 3 decades. Next slide, Shannon. Thank you. Shannon? Okay, thank you. The next issue is a national issue. It is an issue that we're working very closely with the Security Industry Association, SIA, but we've also branched out to the National School Boards Association and other education-related associations that are based here in the Washington area, and that is school security. Now, I'll preface this very greatly that in the last day on Capitol Hill, ESA had a high-level delegation together with the SIA counterpart to me, Jake Parker, who is with SIA, and we visited the Department of Education, and we visited with a security official for the Department of Education, making the presentation that security funding, which is 90 million or 100 million or whatever the millions were at that particular time, should include federal grants to school districts for the purchase and upgrade or whatever of security technology. And the official told us that they're not going to do that. They had no intention of spending any of the money that Congress had appropriated for school technology. So then we went over to the Department of Justice and we found the same thing. So in the last 4 years, Congress has been allocating school safety, school security appropriations or funding somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 to $300 million, mostly for studies and reports, which are important, and I don't say anything negative about them, but if you go to any member of Congress and you say, well, how much has Congress given the states to help our children and families and teachers protect against crazy terrorists and people that want to shoot up schools, they would say, well, I just allocated, tens of millions of dollars for that. Well, that's not true. And so we have made a request together with the National School Boards Association that if you're going to allocate $75 million, for example, to the Department of Justice for school security projects, which do not involve technology, you need to allocate at least 15 of the 75 for purchase of school security technology. It's really a no-brainer issue, but Congress, of course, needs to be educated on how it can help through federal grants. I will say that in the analysis that we've done and that SIA has done, there are significant allocations of money at the state level. Connecticut, 21 million, Texas, tens of millions, and so on. So the states are stepping up, and these allocations at the state level are for security equipment and devices. So our issue is very simple. Again, in the large scheme of things in Congress, there is a funding subcommittee that deals with the Commerce Department, the Justice Department, and the State Department, and obviously we don't care about the other two, but the Justice Department, if you're going to allocate $75 million, at least make $15 million available, that we can competitively within the industry go to these school districts and apply for technology equipment. We think it's a great issue. We've not had anybody be negative to the issue. In fact, a lot of members, when they hear about it, they're very supportive. So these visits will enhance this position, and we also have the fact that ESA has school security guidelines, and I believe SIA might have similar guidelines, and it's an effort to acquaint the members of Congress and their staffs with the fact that we are concerned that Congress is not focused on preventing tragedies that have existed in Russia or in Europe on this particular protecting of K through 12 schools or even colleges. Paul, do you have anything to add on this? Paul?
I don't know if I'm still on. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything to add. I think you covered that right.
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Okay, I call it a buzz, and I call it a movement. But the president has talked the last 6 months about community colleges, but there seems to be a greater buzz of the fact that a lot of trade schools and a lot of unemployed youth or a lot of returning veterans or a lot of people that need to have skills or have skills for that matter need to be trained for the 21st century in industries that need them. And one of the, I guess historically it would be an ancient designation. It's called apprenticeship. And apprentices, if you look it up in history during the Middle Ages, they apprenticed with skilled workers who taught them building trades and other specialties, and they learned a skill. And so one of the issues that has generated a lot of bills, and I look at the topics of bills that might have some interest to ESA, relates to apprenticeship support by employers. Now it's unusual for two aspects. One is that it has united both Democrats and Republicans on an issue, which of course if you read the newspapers, that's a pretty rare thing these days. And second, it provides support for the business community, which I'll get into in 1 second, which is also a very rare thing nowadays. So we've been meeting with some senators and congressmen staff on some of the bills that have been introduced. One of them in particular we will pay attention to during the day on Capitol Hill, and there's others that I will mention during the briefings. This particular bill is supported by Tim Scott, who's a Republican senator from South Carolina, and Cory Booker, who's a new Democratic senator from New Jersey. So there's the bipartisanship. And it is an effort to provide for a federal tax credit for businesses to hire new apprentices that are registered with the U.S. Department of Labor or a state apprenticeship agency. And it says that the age of apprentices is currently as high as 29, so the tax credit would be $1,500 for apprentices under 25, and the tax credit for apprentices over 25 would be $1,000. And there's some other provisions in the bill that make it attractive for businesses to support apprentices. There are some statistics that will be included in the talking points. For example, there are over 410,000 apprentices in 19,200 active registered apprenticeship programs, representing only 0.2% of the nation's workforce. But we will include with the packet a reference to ESA's apprenticeship program, which is approved by the U.S. Department of Labor and which is available for members to take advantage of. And I think that's important that ESA shows it embraces a key issue that has united Democrats and Republicans, and that looks at the training for the future workforce that will be needed in the United States. Paul, do you have anything else to add?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we will take questions, if there are any.
So, John, I don't have any questions yet, but if anybody does have a question, you can enter it in the chat log or the question log that's in your GoToWebinar control panel.
Okay. Can we wait a minute for that then? Okay, we hope that you have found this to be very informative content. We are now past the question and answer period. But you certainly can, you see the email there. I also have a personal email that you can secure from the headquarters. All of you can ask me any question you want 24/7 up through and including May 4th and 5th. So feel free to do that. Shannon? Nope. Any more questions?
Nope, I don't have, nothing has come in, so I think we're good.
Okay. I'd like to remind everyone that's on that a recording of the webinar can be available again at esaweb.org/DOCH, Day on Capitol Hill, 2015. Thank you for participating, and we appreciate your time and hope that you will find the content useful. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward, or we look forward, to seeing you in Washington, D.C. on May 4th. Thank you.
And actually, John, I just got a couple questions that just came in. Are you still here?
I am still here, and I am available.
Okay, they just came in at the last second. So here is a question. When are they, can you just remind everybody when the handouts will be distributed?
Yes, the handouts, there are two types. The first is material that you will receive from ESA. That is in final preparation, should go out later this week. And then there's handouts that will be given on May 4th for the congressional offices. They're going to be the same, but we'll have handouts there for congressional staff and for House and Senate members.
Okay. And another question is, does ESA have any information or reference information on the number of customers potentially affected by the copper to fiber transition?
No, we do not, unless, Paul, you've seen something at the Federal Communications Commission. One of the issues that relates to this question is that there's no given timetable nor geographic locations that have been announced as approved both by the FCC or at the state level for copper retirement. In fact, the comments that ESA made to the Commission concerning copper retirement and expressing concern, and AICC, their comments on copper retirement and deregulation, are being considered by the Commission as we speak, and their final answer to these comments hasn't come out yet. So we anticipate it should be soon, but it's not out, so we don't know. That's the answer.
Okay. And another question is, somebody is asking about Tuesday afternoon appointments, how soon they may know in case they're scheduled to fly out Tuesday afternoon.
Yes. Okay. I can say that we are finalizing all appointments in the next, I guess, week. But I can say with certainty that Tuesday afternoon on May 5th, we will end most of the appointments by 4 o'clock because everyone has to get to the hotel for a departure at the hotel by 5:30. And if that's the case, the hotel's not next to Capitol Hill, so it takes a little bit of time to get there. So if you're making plans, I would say by 4 o'clock, definitely, and even that's late, the appointments will be over.
Okay. And another question is, if we don't have an appointment with one of our congressmen or senators, is there something we can do to help with that?
Yes. Due to the schedule and the entire program, for a lot of you, there might be 10 or 20 members in your delegation, and it would be you can't see them because there's just not enough time. What would be extremely helpful would be I would be willing to draft very targeted letters for you for your congressional delegation that can either be done through the chapter or individually to your congressman and then to the 2 senators. And I would just say, maybe let's talk about that on May 5th. Or you can email me saying, look, I'm not going to be able to visit all my members of the delegation. Please draft letters for, the rest of the people. And these letters, by the way, I would make them very, customized and targeted based on the committee of jurisdiction that the member serves on to make the maximum effect. So I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know.
Okay, and then I just wanted to clarify one point. The handouts will actually go out via email on Tuesday of next week, just so that everybody's aware, not this week. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let everyone know that. And then you could also meet with your elected officials back in your district as well. So just wanted to add on to that piece too.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I think that wraps it up for questions at this point.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Paul.